Ladies and gentlemen, if you watch this channel, I have been telling you the appeals court in New York would toss and throw out the conviction or the $500 million civil fraud penalty against President Trump. I told you it was complete lawfare. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. This is a vindication for President Trump. This is an entire state going after him and losing, just like the American intelligence agencies went after a sitting president, a candidate for president, couldn't stop Trump. Democrats couldn't stop Trump. Nothing can stop President Trump because he is who he is. That's the great thing about Donald Trump. You like him or don't like him, he's actually the most honest. He's going to give you exactly who he is. He doesn't need to inflate his net worth. He didn't inflate his net worth. That was a lie. USA Today, Trump's $454 million civil fraud penalty thrown out by appeals court. CNN, New York appeals court voids the roughly $500 million civil fraud case against Trump. It's all over the news. This is huge. I have been telling you, ladies and gentlemen, vindicates me and the channel. But I don't want to, pat myself on the back, but I have been consistently telling you exactly what's going to take place. Supreme Court victory after Supreme Court victory. I told you he'd get immunity for official acts. They tried to stop him. They tried to imprison him for a speech, which is so absurd. They said he fomented a rebellion. These are absurd, outlandish, stupid leaps of logic. And Democrats with mortgage fraud, with fabricating intelligence, not a leap of logic. They tried to set up and frame Trump. They lost. That's why the Democratic Party is in complete shambles, because they believe in hoaxes and fabrications. Trump was never a Kremlin operative. He never inflated his net worth. You watch, the hush money conviction will be overturned also. Every single thing they tried to do against Trump will be either overturned or will just make him stronger. He's the Obi-Wan Kenobi of politics. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Donald Trump is the Obi-Wan Kenobi of politics. The more they try to do, if the Democrats are Darth Vader, Trump is Obi-Wan Kenobi. He can't be stopped. The more they try to tarnish his name, ruin him, destroy him, that's what happens to the Democratic Party. Hit subscribe. My God, I am so happy. And check this out, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, Fox News alert, a New York appeals court just this morning has thrown out President Donald Trump's massive civil fraud penalty. The decision from a 5-panel group in New York's appellate division changed the original decision that stood to cost Trump over $500 million. One appeals judge calling the lower court's penalty an excessive fine that violates the 8th Amendment of the United States Constitution. You might remember that New York Attorney General Letitia James' office says despite this decision, they will not be dropping the case. Let's get some thoughts from Andy McCarthy. He's a former U.S. attorney. He is a Fox.
They're going to have to drop the case. And Letitia James will almost certainly be indicted, potentially for mortgage fraud.
Contributor, he is on the phone with us. And last summer, you were helping us every single day as President Trump sat in that courtroom. Letitia James, the AG, she happened to be there as well. And at the time, I remember, Andy, you said that you thought this could be the outcome once the appellate court got a hold of it. What are your thoughts this morning?
Well, I think, Dana, that Trump may be ultimately completely exonerated on this. For now, the penalty goes. There was division in the appeals court about the merits of the underlying suit, but as you point out, what they found basically under an 8th Amendment theory, that's the amendment that prohibits cruel and unusual punishments, there was such a mismatch between whatever wrong was actually established in the trial and the outrageous penalty that was imposed for it, which was, I think, $355 million, which with interest and other costs is already up to about $530 million now because it continued to accrue for a while. That was such a ridiculous mismatch between what the penalty was and whatever the wrong was that was established, that had to go. The court is leaving in place some other what they call injunctive rulings that were made by the court. So some things have to be sorted out, like how much monitoring Trump's organization is going to be under. But he's out from under the most important part of the case, obviously. And I think there could still be an appeal to the highest appeals court in New York, the Court of Appeals, where they will deal with the question that seems to have vexed the appellate division, which is the whole merits of the case and whether Letitia James, the Attorney General in New York State, should have been able to use a consumer protection statute that had never been used in this way.
So he did nothing wrong. He never inflated his net worth to deceive Deutsche Bank. On the other hand, Letitia James might have deceived banks pertaining to a 5-unit apartment or condo or apartment she owned that she claimed was 4 units. He also might have deceived insurance companies and banks when she said her primary residence was in New York when it was in, I believe it was Virginia that they found out. But this is why Deutsche Bank went to bat for Trump. Check this out.
But yeah, that was the claim against Trump, was that he, quote unquote, overinflated the value of his properties to secure financing to grow his wealth. I'd love to hear what this is actually worth.
Exactly. You're in the business and you're valuing it at what? She said 18 million.
Well, I mean, if we take a look at Mar-a-Lago, let's start here, Maria. The guest house alone is worth 75 to 100 million. If you take a look at Palm Beach Island waterfront land, right? And keep in mind, we're a small island. We're only 12 miles long, half a mile wide. So it's not a big market. Scarcity is a real thing for us. We only have 2,500 homes on this island. So if you take into account waterfront land pricing, which the average is about 1,600 per foot. We've seen some sales on the ocean as high as 2,000 per foot. But you know, if you take a look at Mar-a-Lago, it's 20 acres. And for example, we just sold the most expensive property ever sold in the U.S., a private island here in Palm Beach for 152 million. Most expensive sales so far in the country this year. That went for 152 million. If you do some very simple math, 152 million times 10, which equates to the 20 acres of Mar-a-Lago, you're at 1.5 billion. That's not taking into account the 100,000 square feet of house that he has on the land. It's similar frontage. So that's 500 million of house. So 1.5 billion of land plus 500 million of house, you're at 2 billion in my opinion. Even if you short, say that it's really, more than 1.5 or 1.75, the 18 million evaluation was so far off base and clearly done by someone who has no understanding of Palm Beach Island.
So just like with Trump Russia, the hoax that was perpetuated by wonderful, morally superior Democrats, such good people. I mean, most Democrats are wonderful human beings, okay? Most liberals or progressives. The Democratic Party and a great many within the electorate just believe nonsense. They're like, indoctrinated artificial intelligent robot seals. They're just like, he worked with Russia. He worked with Russia. He inflated his net worth. He inflated his net worth. And they just repeat and regurgitate the complete nonsense that you hear on MSNBC, CNN. It's published in the New York Times, the Washington Post. That's why American media has become a mouthpiece for the Democratic Party. Very few people trust media. Okay, you'd have to be very naive to truly trust the average journalist, because most journalists have become activists. They just repeat the same nonsense. He never inflated his net worth. He never tried to foment a rebellion. He never tried to work with the Kremlin to release timed information that showed what? That Bernie Sanders was cheated, just like Biden was 4 years later. That Clinton had top secret intelligence on servers. These are all scandals of their own making. And the prosecutors in New York, what they tried to do is they tried to make absurd leaps of logic, just like Jack Smith, just like Democrats throughout the country. They said, okay, the Colorado Supreme Court overturned unanimously. I said that would take place. I said the New York Appeals Court would overturn this. They're going to overturn the hush money conviction. He won. I told you he'd win. So I've been pretty much spot on most of the things that I've been telling you on this channel. Mar-a-Lago is worth 1 to 1.5 billion. He's a part of American history. He was a part of Americana even before he became president. He never worked with the Kremlin to defeat Clinton. James Comey's letter was what really sunk Clinton's campaign. And I was saying she was going to lose the entire, all throughout 2016. Hit subscribe. Huge, huge day. I'll have a live stream tonight. Be here.